Ray! Chapter 1, Meeting Their Copies, Bardic Beloved, by Ruby Redcliffe. Raistlin, is that young bard looking at you or me? Asked Caramon. The likely thing is she's staring at you, replied Raistlin bitterly, without looking up. Caramon shrugged and looked at the girl. She was about their age. He smiled and winked at her. She frowned at him and rolled her eyes. Then the bard smiled at Raistlin and hummed a tune. "Raist," said Caramon in surprise. Raistlin looked up. "That bard is looking at you!" Raistlin's eyes widened and he looked swiftly toward where Caramon gestured. Bard girl smiled at him and blew him a kiss. He stood up and walked shakily to the table she sat at. She looked at him with a grin that said, "I like you." "What's your name?" Raistlin asked. "Raina Mystek. You can call me Ray," said the bard. "What do you want of me? Why not my brother?" asked Raistlin. "Him? No, I don't like men who are women conquerors," said Ray. "But why choose me?" Raistlin persisted. Pale blue eyes, pale skin, slender, almost skinny. "You're hot." "Can you handle that?" said Ray. Ray got up and took his hand. She pulled him outside in a secluded area. Then she pulled him close and kissed him full on the mouth. They heard a cough behind them. Turning swiftly, they saw Caramon staring at them. "Caramon, what are you doing back here?" exclaimed Raistlin. "I saw you going with the bard. I thought you might get hurt. I was worried," explained Caramon. "Well, you didn't have to. As you may have noticed, I'm doing fine with Ray," Raistlin said nastily. "Wait, what did you say your name was?" asked Ray sheepishly. "Raistlin Majere, and this obnoxious fool is my twin brother Caramon," Raistlin replied with a half smile. "That's funny, I have a twin sister named Kara. Do you by any chance have another?" Ray was cut short by a large brawny woman running towards her. Raistlin noticed her sigh impatiently as the woman began to speak quickly and worriedly. "Oh, Ray, thank the gods you are all right. I was talking and turned back when you didn't answer. Where'd you run off to, and who are these men?" finished the woman. "Kara, I'm fine. I was tired and went to go perform at this inn. These two gentlemen were talking to me. This is Raistlin. He is Caramon," replied Raina with a hint of irritation. She gestured to the men, and Kara eyed Caramon with mistrust. "Hey, lady, I don't know who you are, but you better stop fingering that sword of yours," Caramon said, his hand on the hilt of his sword. Ray sighed and placed a gently hand on her twin's arm. Kara looked at her questioningly. "I don't like this little sister. You could have gotten hurt. And this big man Karanob or something looks dangerous," she said. Ray sighed again and pushed on Kara's arm slightly, who let go of her sword. "Kara, stop it! These men are harmless to me and you know it, and the man's name is Caramon," said Ray irritably. Raistlin laid his hand on his twin and Caramon relaxed. "Raist, I don't trust that big woman. She looks too comfortable with that sword," whispered Caramon anxiously. "These women would not stand a chance against us for one, and for two, I believe we can trust them," said Raistlin through gritted teeth. Raistlin looked over at Ray apologetically. At the same instant, she turned to smile at him sheepishly. "I guess we kinda are alike. At least you don't have an older half-brother named Kristoff," Ray said with a tinkling laugh. "No, not a half-brother, but a half-sister named Kidiara, who taught Caramon everything he knows," replied Raistlin. The two of them looked at each other in alarm. "That's funny, I was trained by Kristoff. How come we're so alike to these guys, little sis?" asked Kara, confused. "Sister, I do not know everything, although I do know more than you," said Ray warily. Raistlin snickered. "It's the same way with Caramon. I know a lot more than him, but he doesn't know much. I wonder if you are the feminine versions of us and your brother the masculine version of Kitiara, said Raistlin thoughtfully. I was just about to say the same thing, grinned Raina. Maybe I'm not so alone in this world, they said together. Chapter 2, Traveling Together. Ray and Kara woke up the next day in the inn. Don't laugh, but Raistlin and Caramon woke up at the same time. Ray sat up and rubbed her eyes. Kara groaned, scratched her head. She pulled her curly auburn hair into a ponytail. Raina brushed her hair out and slipped her hair into a twist. She walked out of the room, leaving her twin blundering around for her armor. She slid her silver dagger into her thigh sheath. Her short black leather skirt and leather vest were tight, but she had managed to fit a silver shirt under the vest. Raistlin slipped out of his room shortly after and followed the slender bard out of the inn and down the road. Ray, wait, he called. Ray turned in surprise. She stopped and walked back the few feet to meet Raistlin. She wound her arms around his neck and giggled. Raistlin, she asked and kissed him. He blushed and put his hands on her waist. You aren't leaving already? He asked sadly. She nodded and twisted out of his grasp. He gasped and chuckled. She grabbed his hand and pulled him down the road with her. I have to go find another inn to perform at. Come with me, love. Kara says she likes Caramon. I know I don't want to make this a one-day romance, although that would make a good song, Ray said, half dragging the love-struck Raistlin around. Kara came running up to the two then. She did a quick glance at Raistlin, but rapidly focused on Raina. I wish you wouldn't do that, Raina, she panted. Raina looked back and realized the inn was lost from sight. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself, sister, Ray said icily. Kara flinched but nodded and fell behind. The three traveled in silence, broken only by Ray's flirting comments and Raistlin's lips meeting hers. A mile out, Caramon came rushing up. He checked to see that Raistlin was unharmed, but didn't bother him, knowing better than to mess with his twin. Kara giggled as he fell back next to her. Caramon, does Raistlin always leave without saying anything often? Kara asked, genuinely curious. Caramon nodded and asked her if Raina did the same. Kara repeated the gesture. Somehow or other they ended up kissing. Ray glanced back, gagged, and nudged her partner. Raistlin looked back and rolled his eyes. The two held hands as they walked. Raistlin studied his copy more carefully now. I can't believe I didn't see it before. Ray, you can do magic, Raistlin said. Kara perked her head and touched her twin's shoulder. Raina, what does she mean? She asked. Raina shrugged off her sister's hand. He means, dear sister, that I, like him, can work the magic arts. I was actually wondering if you could teach me, Raist. I knew I have magic, but I couldn't afford to pay for a teacher, Raina explained. Raistlin considered it for less than half a second. He nodded and started to explain the basics. Chapter 3, in which it all falls apart. 3 months after that day at the inn, Raina was at the same level of magic as Raistlin. She awoke that morning in Raistlin's arms. She rose next to him and gently stroked his hair out of his face. Oh, my Raistlin, why did you take that dread test? You've changed so much, she murmured, and Raistlin had changed. His fair skin was now golden, his hair prematurely white, his vision cursed. He had become sickly. As a single tear slid down Ray's cheek, she got up to make Raistlin's morning tea. He would need it. His lungs were very weak now, and the tea was the only thing that could restore him to some level of health. Not only was Raistlin physically different, his attitude had changed. He would lash out at Caramon or her sister once when she had gone to kiss Raistlin. For she still loved him. She had found a glittering silver dagger at her throat. She had started to cry, and Raistlin dropped the dagger. He had reached for her to comfort her, and she fell back in terror, trembling with sorrow. He had pled for her to come back. She fled, hearing his calls after her. "Please, Ray, come back! I didn't mean to do that. It was the other," he had called. She had run, crying. The next day, when she returned to him, he had greeted her with cold annoyance and demanded she to make him his tea. In a softer voice, he added, "You know I like yours best. I've missed you, my love." She had turned and shoved her fist into her mouth to quiet her sobs, but Raistlin still had excellent observation skills. "Please don't cry, my love. I'm so sorry for the pain I cause you. I wish it would end. I wish it would just end if I cause you this torment," he had said. She whirled around and fell into his arms. She cried for him. She cried for herself. She had kissed him feverishly. He had lain down with her on top of him. Ray cast a spell to keep Caramon and Kara from stumbling in, and then she took away Raistlin's pain, the only way she could think of. It would be the last time they made love. For today, after she got up, Raina roused her twin with a gentle touch. "We must go, sister," she said softly. Before she left, she placed a steaming mug of tea at Raistlin's side, along with a note. She kissed his forehead and turned to leave. "I'm sorry, love. I will send word to you in 4 years' time. I will tell of your babe. I love you, Raistlin Majere." And she walked out of Raistlin's life. An hour later, Raistlin awoke. He found the note explaining her leave. He scrambled up and made a desperate attempt to find Ray. He followed Kara's boot prints, but they eventually disappeared. He walked back to camp, sat down, and let his head fall into his hands. He'd lost her. He'd lost the one woman who would have ever cared about him. In 4 years, Raistlin would grow more bitter and cynical. Sarcasm would become a weapon he wielded almost as well as his magic. In 4 years, Raina gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. This girl would resemble her mother in all aspects but her eyes. As time went by, they went from pale blue to dark blue with golden flecks. Raina named her Anastasia Majere. Raina took the test a year after having Anastasia. She passed, becoming the second youngest mage to pass the test. She would weep for the youngest, who had become shrouded in darkness. After Raina took the test, she traveled with Kara and Anastasia to Solace. In the Inn of the Last Home, she requested that the innkeep convey a message to Raistlin Majere. "Tell Raistlin that Raina Mystek is well and our daughter is beautiful," she told him. Then Raina disappeared for years.